Hi guys, this is Rookie Plays Some Bullshit, and I'm Rookie. But today we're not playing bullshit, we're talking bullshit. Specifically, Dungeons and Dragons. And that is most definitely a stormtrooper crotch behind me. Didn't position as well as I wanted it to, but I left it there. YOLO. Anyways, so we're gonna do some basic tips here for your first time DMing or dungeon mastering for specifically D&D. Might work with Pathfinder and others as well. And if you're a beginner, if you've already been around this block, it's probably not for you. So, anyways, just gonna jump right in. So, first, this may seem obvious to some of you, but to some it's not. Get the contact information of everybody you're gaming with. If you know it, if you know who you're gaming with, you might be DMing at a store, so you may not know everybody. But it's good to try and get that contact information, try and get emails or phone numbers or something like that, and leave your information out there if you're the DM. Let people contact you, because inevitably they're going to have to be asking about their characters. They're going to be asking about your rules. Set your rules in stone beforehand, and not all of them. I'm specifically talking about you're going to want to have a few things. So for example, do you allow clerics to worship evil gods or something, evil clerics, so on and so forth. And you're also going to want to discuss with your players if you allow in-group conflict. So that means player to player, because obviously there's got to be conflict or a game isn't a game. But a lot of DMs, they can't handle conflict inside the group. If you do have conflict inside the group, in game, not out of game, help everybody remember that, yeah, this is just a game and this is in the game. Just because my orc doesn't like your high elf doesn't mean I don't think you're a cool guy and we should go out to eat Tuesday. So set those things in stone first. If you're new and you're DMing, especially at a store, I highly recommend you use a pre-made module, because this is going to give you all the information you need, and there's going to be little deviation. Now, I say little, but probably an exaggeration, because players are players, and I'm looking at you, players. Okay, note that, one, if you go off of a module, there's a chance one of the players may already know this module. If they do, two things. There are two things you're going to want to help your players with. One is keeping in-character knowledge and out-of-character knowledge as two separate things. In-character knowledge. My character doesn't know that Joe's character has an ingrown toenail. But I do, as a player. It was in his description. So I have to keep that separate now. I can't be like, ingrown toe Joe? Huh? Is that what hurts? No, that's two separate things. So you're going to want to establish those rules beforehand, and you might have to be the one to establish that. As the DM, you also kind of double as a babysitter. That role naturally ends up getting filled by you. So if people get out of hand, or they get rowdy, or they're not paying attention, you have to project. You have to have that voice. You have to be the one that really, you can't be shy. It's not going to work out if you're shy. You've got to project. You have to know when to let people settle down, but you also have to let them joke. Because there's going to be jokes. They're going to make random scroungy jokes. We do all the time. I do all the time. But sometimes it's a serious scene, and so we wait for people to calm down, or you ask them to calm down, or you say, hey guys, can we wait? Sometimes you have to be a little bit louder than that, especially, not to be the one, but you men, harder to settle down. You heard me. Okay, but, so you really have got to be able to kind of babysit the group. Now, that's not to say that we're not all adults. Like, it doesn't matter who the DM is. You end up being the babysitter, because You get a group of gamers who are all passionate together, of course we're going to want to riff. You know, we're going to want to joke and throw dice and whatever it is we do it. So you know, you kind of get set as not just the babysitter, but be prepared. Bring extra character sheets, bring blank paper, bring, if you have it, bring extra sets of dice. I always have a big huge fucking bag of dice. I don't know where it's at right now, but a huge bag of dice. So, you know, sometimes I have sets that are mismatched and I let players use those. Extra pencils. Bring extra pencils, paper, character sheets. Have your own character sheets. A lot of people aren't going to have those. It's just not going to happen. It's life. What else? Scratch paper. Yeah, shit like that. You know, be prepared for them not to be prepared. That's going to go to you quite a bit. As a DM, I feel it's important to have the core rule books. All of them hardcover. The reason I say this is because a lot of people aren't going to have them. You're going to be loaning it out. You're not going to want to loan out your phone or your tablet or your computer, so on and so forth. I personally don't like having computers and phones, you know, I mean emergencies, but I don't like having computers and phones, something that's readily available at the table all the time, because it distracts from the game. People end up playing solitaire, they end up checking Facebook, they end up chatting with their friends. I like to keep my games pretty in synced. A lot of places you can't do that, you know, but if you have a choice, you know, it's up to you. You're the DM. You're essentially in a way providing a certain service as the DM, so you're able to request a few things here and there. Don't get cocky though. It's not good. You know, so make sure you set your specific rules like that ahead of time. Now, there are other rules, you know, such as house rules that might change over time. You know, a player might bring up a good point. Don't shoot players down a lot. That's one of the biggest player turn-offs you can really kind of give them. If a player says, hey, can I try and climb up that wall? And you're like, no, it's a fucking wall. It's got an incline like this. You can't do nothing. Now, the way I deal with this is if it's an impossible situation, I tell them to roll a die. They get a natural 20, they can do it. 'Cause, you know, sometimes it's 18 through 20, sometimes, you know, it's just a high DC. It really just depends on what they're doing. Sometimes they want to do something ridiculous, and I'm like, okay, you get a natural 20, you can do it. Sometimes they get that natural 20, and they feel cool as fucking bananas during that moment. And, you know, it really helps them build their character when they do something impossible. Like, this is a fantasy world. Let impossible things happen. But also don't be afraid to say no if it's going to detract from the enjoyment of the game, because that's the last thing you want to happen. You don't want, you know, if it's going to take from other people's enjoyment of gameplay, then, you know, don't be afraid to say no. The whole point of this is to have fun. It really is. So you're going to want to bring that element in, and you need to be knowledgeable, and you need to be patient with new players. If you are a new player and you're stepping into the shoes of a DM, I applaud your bravery and stupidity. Huh. No, you're not stupid. You're not. It's a position that needs to be filled, and we all had to learn sometime, you know, and some people, they all learn together, so somebody had to start off being the DM. A difficult thing is for a new DM and experienced players. Now, this can be daunting. This can be very daunting. I remember my first go was actually at my parents' store. My parents owned a tabletop gaming store for a while. And I didn't know how to read the loot charts. So I did what's called Montying. It's based on, I think, Monty Cook. There's a Monty Hall. I don't know. And it's when you give out too powerful of items or too many items or too many things and stuff like that. And these bunch of adults, I was like 12, 13, I don't know, I was a kid. These bunch of adults ended up making fun of me afterwards because I Monty'd. Because I didn't know, I just kind of rolled on the magical item chart rather than rolling a percentage chance to see if there was a magical item in there and then randomly choosing from that chart which item they got. So you can see instead everybody got a gaggle of rare items. So reread and reread your adventure. Print out your stuff beforehand. Draw your maps beforehand. You're gonna want maps. I know a lot of players don't like this, but have figurines. If you can't get figurines, have little counters, like those little like marble things with the flat bottoms. Because a lot of times it helps during encounters to have that visual. This doesn't mean when you're going through a random adventure, you go to a tavern, you know, it doesn't mean you're always using them, but it is extremely handy to have during combat, especially if you have more than 3 or 4 players. You have 8 players, not everybody knows where they're standing. You can't have 8 people crowding around one fucking monster. Well, you can't, regardless, you know, you need to know where people are. And so having some form of counters and some form of system to elaborate on that is going to be extremely important to your DMing. Yeah, this does add to the cost of DMing, which is a problem. But especially if you're DMing in store, or you know, you want to seem professional, these are things that you should have in your repertoire. You should have your little bag of holding. It's got all your DMing tools in it. So recap on the tools that you are going to need or want, preferably, is obviously at least 1 set of dice, preferably an extra set. I always take a minimum of 2 to 3 sets with me. You're going to want pencils, your pencil, and you know, some throwaway pencils, some ones that you're not going to be afraid to lose, because you might lose them if you loan them out. So you're going to want some loaner pencils. You're going to want character sheets. Even if you're the DM, you're going to want spare character sheets. You're going to want scratch paper. And you're going to want, what's the last thing I had said? Whatever. You're going to want miniatures, and you're going to want your maps pre-drawn. You can do this multiple ways. I just so happen to have a, you know, a rollout map with the grid. Some people like hexagon. For D&D, usually the squares sort of just fine. Other people I know have taken larger square maps and they've gotten them laminated at Kinko's. I know people who have just taken pieces of paper, you know, and had like a clear sheet over it, kind of some hexagons on that, or some squares on that, a grid pattern on that. So, but you want them big enough for miniatures to fit in, so that's going to be about, say about yay big, you know. So if you're drawing out your own or something, you can also print them. There's plenty of free supplies to print. I'll put those down there. Some areas where you can get some free stuff, some free adventures, free maps. Definitely gonna want maps, because you never know when a fight's gonna start out. You know, you're a tavern, you may not have a map for it, but guarantee you at some part a bar fight's gonna come out, and you never know when that bar fight gets real serious. So, you know, those are important things to have. Now, a DM screen. Let me explain to you what a DM screen is. DM screen is 3 core things. Okay, 1, it unnerves your players. Love to unnerve your players. You hum and you haw and you look down, you look at them, and then you look down, you look up at them. Freaks them the fuck out. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. Makes me feel good about myself every time. Secondly, it's a reference sheet. Behind every good DM screen, so you want to get one for whatever edition you're doing, will have tables. Tables and examples and quick pull-ups and quick sheets and so on and so forth. Very useful tool for every DM. Thirdly, okay, rule 1, the doctor lies. So does the DM. A lot of the times you're fudging your rolls. Now, this comes from multiple reasons. Don't fudge your rolls a lot. I don't really suggest, I don't highly suggest it, but it's gonna happen. You're going to get to the point where you've got a character who's got 1 hit point left, and they've been having a shit day, and everything has gone wrong for them, and you want to let them live. You don't want them to die. Now, obviously, death has to be a thing. You have to let your characters die sometimes, but there's just sometimes where you're smudging it, you're fudging it. So, and you rolled a natural 20. That character is dead. Gone. I don't give a fuck who you are. You're not surviving a natural 20. You got 1 hit point left. So, you go... Botch. You heard me. I rolled a natural 20. I told you I fucking botched. They don't need to know that. They don't need to see my 20. Now, sometimes, you know, you roll in front of them for, you know, dramatic effect so they can see it. Of course, you can't fudge a roll that you rolled in front of them, but you roll behind the screen, there's that enigma. You have your maps behind your screen. There should be 2 types of maps. The player map and the DM map. The DM map has all the secrets. This is where the treasure chest is. This is where the secret door is. The player map, blank. There's a door here. Fucking open it and find out what's inside. Yours is a reference guide. Now there's one website I specifically adore. I've given it to my dad, who is a DM of years, longer than I've been alive, obviously, and he loves the website. I love the website. It's a donjon.bin.she, I believe it is. I'm not sure. I'll leave it down in the comments. It's got all sorts of generators for everything. Like, you're like, I'm looking for a magic shop. And you're like, fuck, I didn't think of a magic shop. But of course there's going to be a magic shop. This is the biggest town ever. So you're like, quick, I got to randomly generate a magic shop. Boom. That website. Randomly generate character. Boom. That website. You know, magical weather. I love that one. It'll randomly generate magical weather. I really even think of weather, let alone magical weather, which is not, you should think of weather. So, great website, great tool to use, surf it, it's going to help. But fudging your rolls, and sometimes you have to challenge your players. You're not challenging them enough because you keep rolling low. So you start fudging your rolls up a little. It's not always in their favor. Not always in their favor there. So, may the odds be ever in your favor. But sometimes they're just not. So, don't tell them when you're fudging rolls, and don't tell them that you fudge rolls. I know some players are probably watching me like, No, my players know that occasionally I fudge rolls, but usually I don't. And usually it's not good. But I'm a mean DM. So, yeah, don't tell them. Also, you know, again, give them choice. Now, there's a problem that a lot of players and a lot of DMs have, and they combat, which is called railroading. Now, railroad is, we all know, a straight track that goes pretty much one way. And people get upset when they're railroaded. They try to make a choice, and you're like, there's an invisible wall there, you can't go there. So you have to be creative. You either have to come up with something new that they're doing, or you have to pretend like you're not railroading them. Yeah, that's what I said. So an example is, they can go left or they can go right. Your adventure calls for them to go right towards the castle. Don't go that way. Never go that way. She would have gone that way. She would have gone straight to the castle. Yeah, so. Castle, okay, brain fried. Alright, so, but they choose to go left. Your adventure calls with right. Left is some bullshit you don't even know. Well, you just switch it. So they believe that they had a choice, but in reality, if they had gone left or if they had gone right, they end up in the same place. And sometimes this is better for you. Don't do this all the time. You know, let them have their choices. But occasionally, it's just better. You have to make decisions for the betterment of the game, not for ego's sake or what have you. It's for the game. Good of the game. Good of the people. Be confident in your decisions. You know, if a player makes a good suggestion, feel free to listen to that suggestion. But also feel free to say no, it is your game, you know, even if it goes against the rules in the book. It's your game. Now, if you're doing a RPGA event, or I don't think it's called RPG anymore. I don't think it's Battlegrounds. I don't think it's that either. If you're doing a sanctioned event, now you're going to have to be very careful because you're going to have to follow the rules a lot more strictly, because these characters are characters that they need to take to other sanctioned games, or need to be able to. So these are done official by the book, you know, the way the game was meant to be played by Wizards of the Coast. So, you know, you just have to be careful. Those are just some tips. A little bit of a sum up. Listen to your players. Be prepared. You're the nanny here. And, you know, again, that's nothing against your players, because when I'm not the DM, I'm crazy. I need to be put in my place occasionally. And when I am the DM, I gotta put my friends in their place sometimes. You know, you gotta remind them. You gotta keep them on the ball. And that's fine. It's part of the game. Also, you know, let them have fun. Have fun yourself. But be prepared. And, you know, keep your little secrets up your sleeve. If you get overwhelmed, feel free to tell your players you need a second to prepare some notes. This is like the #1 DM magic saying is, okay guys, quick break while I prepare some notes. When in reality it just means, you know, you need a minute. Sometimes you're actually preparing notes, sometimes you're mentally preparing, sometimes they've completely derailed your story and you have to redo the whole thing again. So, you know, or maybe you just can't think of a creative way to describe the bad guy. You know, so feel free. Everybody loves a bathroom break. Get some snacks, get some Mountain Dew, some fucking Cheetos. Fucking Cheetos. So, those are my basic tips. I'm gonna put some stuff down below. And keep fucking gaming and don't be daunted by it. DM. Play D&D. It's a fantastic game. It's a fantastic outlet. And you'll love it. Anyways, that's it. Ruki plays some bullshit, and tonight she was ranting about some bullshit. Stormtrooper's crotch.